Right, hello. We'll just wait for a few viewers to come in and then we'll be able to go from there. We'll get a few people coming in. I'm just going to serve it out and get it.
I know there's a few people wanting to come and watch tonight, so.
I've had a few people saying that as well tonight.
But I'm too scared to do anything with the buttons on this page because I will disappear.
Well, it's like
That's technology for you.
put into Facebook jail the other day.
Well,
Yeah.
while you're saying that,
That's better.
I got a scam that I nearly clicked on today. It was so real.
Mm.
There are a lot of them about. You have to be really, really careful nowadays.
I had
And-
that the other day as well, to be all in all fairness. I had
And
somebody.
because I was working,
Well, funny enough, I clicked on somebody who said about Facebook ads or payment or something like that. And then straight after that, my messenger and everything stopped working. So I
Actually,
found,
had
that,
that last week. Yeah.
I found that was weird.
hi Rachel.
Hey, Jay.
Hi, Rachel.
Just getting them sent out to groups.
I feel so bad. I'm trying to do this on my phone and I can barely hear y'all and see y'all. So I apologize. I was so ill prepared. Sorry.
Don't worry about it. It's, it's totally fine. I'm not worried about it at all. We all had, even before I came on, we had technical issues and everything. So I'm getting it said out there. It's getting out there. So anyway, I'll introduce myself. My name's Martin Alley. I'm the founder of Lincoln Spirit Seekers. We started in 2015 when we started getting out there properly. But when I first started Lincoln Spirit Seekers, it started off with just a paranormal team, and then in 2015 we started contacting different groups, and we created a Para Unity family. We've got many teams that's like connected to us worldwide, and it just shows that Para Unity actually works, and it's quite good to see. And it's like people like you, Candice, that that makes like Para Unity worthwhile, because it shows that you've got the support, you've got the encouragement of what Para Unity stands for. I'll let you introduce yourself, and then Bob and Wendy can introduce themselves. Is that okay?
My turn.
You, Wendy, yeah.
Go on, Wendy.
Hi guys. I'm Wendy, obviously, and I've been working in the paranormal in different aspects over the years. From the age of about 6 or 7, I was able to see and hear, and it's really grown from there to where I am today. Working with Martin and Para Unity, which is lovely, and I can't wait to go out with Bob on an investigation. And it's so nice to meet you, Candice.
Thank you for having me. My name's Candice Weston, currently living in Tennessee. I have a team amongst teams. ICU Paranormal is my personal team, but I also work with several other teams within several states in the U.S. We do a lot of different events. Work with a group that is Paranormal Kicks Cancer for Kids, so definitely preaching the para-unity across the U.S. And I have a couple of teams that actually, obviously now, that work in other areas of the world. So that's what we're here for, and this is what we do. I've been working in the paranormal, I guess, for I don't even know how many years now, but it's always been a part of my life ever since I was a kid. So that's kind of how I got suckered into doing this, helping people and helping charitable situations, and trying to help people in general with the things that they deal with. So
pleased to meet you, Candice. I'm Bob Sharp. I'm kind of new to the game with as regards of actually joining any kind of group whatsoever. I've been interested in it since I was young. The paranormal, UFOs, just everything. I was born and brought up in the middle of nowhere in Lincolnshire. I don't know if you'll know it, because obviously we're different continents. But meeting Ali led me into this. to go on some investigations. I'll thank him now while we're live for the bad back. Genius that was. I've just noticed Rachel actually just put some bad back. It's going round. Yeah, I got a musical background, a comical background as well. I'm glad to think I'm a comedian, but sometimes you need that sort of thing, don't you? Especially with all of this, it's so serious and that. So I'm hoping to bring some lightheartedness to the team, as well as a bit of serious and a bit of technical knowledge. Quite technical, so, and was always quite skeptical, even though stuff's happened in life. I think it a little bit like yourself, where it just, you question, don't you? You start off by questioning, and it gets bigger and bigger until you think, yeah, there's got to be more to this. And it's led me to meet all you guys. It's lovely to meet you, Candice.
Thank you much.
Right. So anyway, I've seen that you've been on the show on Discovery Plus. You've had some horrific dealings that you've had to deal with the paranormal world. Would you like to share some of your history and your knowledge of what's happened and everything?
Yeah, I got asked to actually do one of the episodes on Eli Roth's So a Ghost Ruined My Life, which was awesome. I've met a lot of really great people that have also had their experiences that were not so positive. I won't say every experience in the paranormal world is negative, but there are some of those that you encounter and have to deal with that aren't necessarily can get kind of scary and hairy at sometimes. And that one actually dealt with me and my family for a good 2 years. I know you watched the episode, and they the way they do it is they kind of speed everything up, and it seems like everything all happened at once. But this was over a 2-year process. So, but I am fine now. I still have people call me and be like, "Oh my gosh, can I help you with any of this?" And I'm like, "I really appreciate you, but no, we're good. Everything's copacetic now." So, and again, that was 8 years ago that scenario had happened. So, but working with a bunch of friends of mine that are also working for Travel Channel and Paramount, Jack Kenna is one of my best guys. One of my guys. He's also a part of my team. Him and Carly Hall. And he had kind of got me hooked up because he knew some of my stories and the work that I do now because of some of that he felt like, I could be a good additive to some of these television shows that they were doing to put the word out and kind of spread knowledge to everybody that these things do exist. There are people that go through these kind of situations, and that's what teams like us are out there to help people with currently.
So did you find a lot of people wanting to interact with you because they was able to put your face to it? They could say I'm dealing with stuff myself, and they feel like they're freely able to be open with you, knowing that they've got somebody to talk to, somebody to be able to communicate with.
Yes, and you'd be surprised at how often a lot of the stories are kind of the same. A lot of people do deal with kind of the same types of entities, and it helps people know that they're not crazy. One, some of them might be, but not all of them, and there are other people out there that you can definitely bounce things off of. And there are some people that have actually put themselves taught themselves to help people deal with these things. I deal with a lot of parapsychologists. I have a bunch of people that are associated with the team that are actually Catholic priests, depending on what kind of, if you're into Catholicism, spiritualism, every kind of religion, we try to at least have somebody that has a hand in any of those so we can help people. And I think it's very important to educate yourself on a lot of these things.
I get that. So that's really good. Wendy, have you got some stuff to ask?
Yeah, I noticed that you're an empath, yeah, and I wonder how does it affect you? I know that when I've been around a lot of people, I have to take a step back and just hide for a day or two just to get rid of it all. How do you cope with it?
It's hard. Sometimes it's harder than others. I work and volunteer for OSPHPRC, which is Old South Pittsburgh Haunted Hospital Research Center in Pittsburgh, Tennessee. And there's a lot of public events that we do also that people come in to investigate. And having 60 to 80 to 90 people running around that are all wide open to anything and skeptical also in the same aspect, It's really hard, one, to decide or pick up on if you're actually feeling an entity that is around, or if you're picking up on everybody else's energies that are around you, and what could be positively and or negatively influencing you, or what's draining you, or what's really wearing you out. I get exhausted. I'm not gonna lie. There are some even cases where it's just dealing with one person or one family that will zap me and completely drain me for a couple of days. The headaches are real.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah.
Just be by yourself for quite a few days and just unload the baggage that you have to know that is not yours.
Yeah, that's
pretty difficult.
That's the most important one to recognize when the energy isn't yours. You're not actually feeling this way, it's someone else. But that when I was young and I didn't realize that these feelings happened. So I just thought it was me and that I was crazy.
Same.
Yeah.
See,
Thank goodness.
like with
I'm
this
not
sort of,
alone.
with this sort of like what Wendy just said, it's like when you're learning and it's an ability, it's a gift, but some people find it as a burden. But the gift, it's like as soon as like you learn more, and I believe more you go investigating, you open up more to the channels, and it's like something that Bob's doing at the moment, and he's developing quite quick going on these investigations. Because I was out the other night, and they were saying,
I can attest to that.
Sorry. Okay, I'll apologise.
It's all right. I was going to say on the subject of like, because obviously at the moment, I mean, everybody's got feelings because as human beings, we all have them anyway. And you know it very well. I've said before, I always believe that I think everybody has the ability. I just don't think anybody or everyone's interested or wants to be open to it. I mean, you know, going backwards historically, you'd be burnt at the stake as a witch or whatever, or dunked in the water. And you know, look at them over the years. People like Galileo, because he decided the Earth was at the center of the universe. They pretty much would have hung him, and this, that, and the other and stuff. So the stuff that's happening now, and because of all of the TV shows and all the rest of it, and it's part of the media, big on the media, it's become one of those things where I think it's becoming a little bit more accepted, but obviously it's still joked by and stuff. And people are like growing up and stuff, you know, you'd hear stories, family stories and things, you know, with people and all that. And then obviously, I've got to admit, I decided not to watch the show itself because I'm not a big fan of the way, because I know very well they overdid the spiders, because I've listened to a few podcasts. And the first podcast I listened to, when you said about the spiders, I thought, yeah, that's why I don't want to bother, because I don't need it over dramatizing, because it is. I get why they do it, but listening to you tell the story was much more important. And the thing is, while a lot of people don't want you to recount it, after listening to and reading a little bit and a few podcasts, I kind of get the story, or as much as I wanted to know, because I'd rather ask you the questions and get it from you. You know what I mean? So, and hear it come from your mouth and the experiences without dragging anything up, because I know how it affected you and what it did to your family life as your family back then. You know what you told in the story, because obviously, finding out then with the reading and stuff that you'd sort of had stuff as a child, that was sort of what I wanted to know. Can you sort of pinpoint your first experience, something that you knew definitely wasn't right and was out of the norm?
You know what's so strange about that is the fact that ever since I was a kid, it was just always having this inner knowledge. And I, for the longest time, thought that everybody's brains work that way. So it wasn't until I got older, like into like going into preteen years. And that's when kids kind of get rough and on you, and you know, things are questioned. You are questioned as a human being a lot more than when you're a kid. Like back then, you say something like, I've seen this, or I know this is going to happen, or this does happen, or this is why. The parents are just like, oh, that's really weird. How did she do that? Then the older you get and you start relaying that information to like your friends or teachers or things like that, they start looking at you like, how do you know this information? Who's talking to you? What is going on? And you're like, whoa, that's how I feel. And is that right? Because I feel like that's really what's going on. But people are so skeptical of that situation, especially when it's people's most interpersonal situations they're dealing with that they've had told absolutely nobody about. So coming to that realization that, oh wait, you can't just blurt some of these things out, because not everybody goes through or thinks or brains work the way that yours does.
Yeah.
So it was rough. It was one of those things where you kind of try to dumb it down, turn it off, or ignore it until you get to an older age of where, at one point, she's my ex now, but her dad died, and he was browbeating me to tell her this information, because he did not mean to go that quickly. And, and I finally just blurted out what he was telling me. And the blood drained from her face. She was pale as a ghost. And she looks at me and like, how do you know any of this? And she was like, what? And I was like, look, don't just take it with a grain of salt. I've always had this abilities when I was a kid. So then we go to like this family barbecue like a week later, and her mom sits down. And again, nobody's talked about what I've told, her. And her mom sits down and looks at them, and she goes, I had the weirdest dream about your dad, and it was so vivid. He was sitting right here on the bed, and everything, word for word, verbatim, that I had told her that he told me to tell her was exactly what her mom had told her to tell her too. And again,
well,
yeah.
So, Bob, you've had something like this, haven't you?
Yeah, I had I decided I was going to go with my missus to see I'm not sure what he calls himself properly, medium, spiritualist or whatever. And it was one of those ones that was an evening thing, with a bunch of people. And I ended up going to my missus one very well, and I went with her friends. And there was nothing going on. It was just going round the usual sort of stuff. And I'm not going to go into it all. It would take all night. But basically, he suddenly decided that my dad was there, and he knew it was me because he just knew I was a carer back at that time. And he wanted it. And he started off, I kept the poker face, and he started off with the usual sort of thing I would expect with your dad wants you to know that you're, he's proud of you and stuff. And then this woman blurted in, he goes, oh my God. And I thought, well, that sounds like my mum. And it was my mum. But the thing that he spotted that not even my partner knows, and I come from a big family, and most of them have passed away, and I've never mentioned it to my missus. When my mum sort of vanished into the ether, he said, it's okay, your mum's going now. She's off to be with Peg. And as soon as he stopped, he went, oh God, oh no, I've just been told off. It's Auntie Peggy. And that was right. My Auntie Peg never absolutely hated being called Peg. That was something you had on a washing line. It was always Peggy. And nobody knew that. Absolutely nobody. And like I say, even my partner of 20 years now, not a clue. So there was apart from a few other things, that was the sort of the being that light bulb moment. So, similar, but that was a few years ago now. So similar thing, but yeah. Okay.
Well, and that's kind of why I dove head first into the paranormal after that was really just to test myself, like we were talking about earlier, where you don't want to feel like you're crazy. So with some of my teams, I would go into locations, not people's homes at first, and wouldn't let them tell me anything about the place, and going completely blind. And I still like to do this just to walk through and see what I can pick up on. And the first place that I ever went to was OSPHPRC. Great place if you ever get a chance to be in the States and investigate it. It is spot on. But I walked through, and some of the stories that they didn't even know that actually got validated here recently, I came up with years ago, and people were just jaws dropped to the floor. They were like, wow.
I listened to you tell about that actually. I forgot the guy who it was actually on one of them you was mentioning. He was the guy that he lived somewhere between his music world and Waverly Hill Sanatorium. So I get what you mean. Yeah, because I'm a big believer in that. Because too many people, when you watch a lot of stuff, too many people claim, I know nothing about it and stuff. And sometimes, especially over here, you get those.
Irene.
Evening, Irene. You get those. It's easy enough for us all to say, I know nothing about the place I'm in. But we know us as teams and this, that, and the other. And as it grows, we all know that we don't do that sort of thing. I'd like to think. I know there has been groups and stuff over the year that ruin it, but hopefully that becomes few and far between.
It is. It's like, for example, it's like I went out on an investigation with Bob the other night, and he must have told me, I don't know how many times, at least 15 times, maybe even more, what this place was called. and it just went through one ear, came out the other.
Actually, I didn't tell you what it was called. I told you the location as it's known today, but nothing else about the location. So that Martin couldn't look. And as far as I'm aware, he didn't, and he did pull up. It's an ongoing thing, this now, so I'm not saying too much, but he's been very, very good, very good.
It's like I like to go destinations myself without having to know about the building, because I believe that there's a lot of people that do fakery out there. That when they'll do a little bit of history looking, and when they go out on the investigation, go, oh, by the way, there's a Bob here. It's like, yeah, you just read it. It says on first thing you find on the internet. You know what I mean?
Well, it's way too easy to get lost in your own head in some of those situations too, because I could easily look at a place and be like, oh, this probably had this go on. I'd rather go dive deeper into it. And again, like I said, for myself, not to really show what I can do to anybody else, because I prefer people not to know, and 90% of the time, to be honest with you. Because then it's like every time you come around, it's like a parlor trick, dance, monkey, dance. Let me see what you can do. And then it just turns into a huge headache. I don't want to guess what number you're thinking right now. Okay. No, I don't want to I don't want to do that.
The lottery numbers.
The classic. Scared to prove to herself.
Yeah, or that people getting scared and not wanting to be around you because they think that you're going to pick up on their deepest, darkest secret and actually know it. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. I don't run into a room and just start reading somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do that. It doesn't work like that. So
I always say I won't be told your deepest, darkest secret because it's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And no, I don't know where you've left your keys, and no, I don't know where your lottery ticket is. I'm sorry, but I don't know if that man that you've never talked to is going to marry you.
Yep. Like, then you're not really psychic, are you? I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm not. Then okay, let's move on to something else.
Totally know where you're coming from. It's like I used to do events. It's like I used to do events, and when I used to do events, I used to go there, and people used to go, right. So who are you then? It's like, well, I'm Martin Ali. I'm the one that's created this event for you all to enjoy, and what can you do then? What can I do? I've just built the event. It's like, all right, what to do? Just throw me in the deep end in the water.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, so I'm going to pick what I'm going to pick up, but if I get it wrong, it's your fault, not mine.
Well, that's my biggest thing too. Some people are like direct satellites to me, and I can pick up on all kinds of things. And it's not even everybody. Even if somebody does open themselves up for me to read, there's been a handful throughout the years that I'm like, I'm not getting anything off of you, but I won't be the one to bullshit. I won't be the one to lie to you. I caught myself on the bad word.
I worry about it after the live viewing. I'll be a Martin. God.
I won't sit there and blow smoke up your booty, and try to pressure you and thinking one way or the other, because that's not fair to you. One, because if you really want to believe something and I'm just trying to placate you and make you feel better about life, I could make something worse in the long run. So people that do that, I can't stand.
I've always thought.
I will say that if someone sits down beside me and I can't get anything, I'm not going to lie to them. And I'll explain to them, don't worry, it's just because I'm not on your wavelength.
Right.
Like the radio station, I'm not quite tuned in to you. That doesn't mean that you're going to die or anything like that. That just means I can't read for you.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people don't tell people that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do a full disclosure whenever I sit down with people. When they really, and I don't do it often. I don't sit down with people often, because you take that home with you as an empath and a medium, and people have different levels of how strong and how in tune they are with you. But you wind up taking that person's emotions home with you, and unpacking that can take days sometimes. And when I have a real job that I work full time, I can't deal with your emotional baggage for too long, because I have to get back to life, my life,
Yeah.
So but I give them the full disclaimer. I tell them, just like you just said, I will sit down with you and we'll go through some things. And if I start hitting on something, I will go full balls to the wall on it, and we'll keep going. But if I don't have anything to really tell you, then we're done. But I also don't do it for money. I've never gotten money off of anybody for doing this. So, a lot of people are out there, and they should for doing their time. People that are real deal and sit down with people to really help them with these types of things. I think that they should be offered some kind of compensation for whatever people want to give to them, in my opinion. But I don't know. I'm my own biggest skeptic, and I don't necessarily trust myself 100,000% like a lot of people do. So I don't
think any of us ever do, though. 110%, because it's just the nature of the job, really.
Yeah.
Was that my voice or was that spirit?
Exactly. And this is why I appreciate when people come back and go, do you remember last year when you gave me this reading? And I've had this happen several times. When you said yada, yada, yada. No, I don't, because when it comes out of my mouth, when I'm in tune and I'm in a trance like that, it's not me talking. It's somebody else telling me this information. I'm not going to retain that information. 98% of the time, I will not retain that. But what did I say? And they'll tell me, and this happened here. And I'm like, I really appreciate you coming back and telling me that, because that makes me feel good. And I'm glad that I was right and made you feel better.
That's it, Candice. It's like when I've been out on load investigations, stuff like that, or even when I go and do these, like I'll go to these events, get thrown in the deep end quite a few times. I don't really want to know your history. I don't want to know your background. What comes in, it'll come in and it'll come back out, and that's it. It's over and done with right there and then. Because I don't want that baggage. I don't want to carry that. And it's like what Rachel here just said. It said, and that's why people love us and come back to us. We always work with truth and honesty, and be able to, work on that sort of foreground. That's when when people are doing it for the right reasons. And that's what, this is why the Power Unity family has been created, is for people to be able to be open, to be able to be close, support, encouraging, to be there for each other. But if you're going to lie and like say stuff that's not truth, then it's like whether you're doing a reading or whether you are in the paranormal field, how can other people be there for you or come support you? It's like we go back to like when we're saying about the readings. It's like I say, I know Wendy doesn't keep that in her mind, and like you said, you don't like to keep that there. It's because once it, it's like I said to Bob earlier, it comes in one ear and comes out the other. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but when a spirit tries to communicate, I get it at the back of my head here.
Spidey sense. I call it Spidey sense. It's like a tingle.
Yeah, it comes in the back of the head here and it comes out
something
there.
you learn to trust.
But after that, after it's come out here, it's over and done with then.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has to be.
I might not even recollect to some of that stuff I've just said.
I never and it's almost like I go into a full kind of trance, and it's like, but I tell people, I'm like, get a recorder, get a piece of paper, start writing this down, because I'm there now and I'm not going to remember anything that I've said after this. It's weird. It really is weird. Trying to explain that to people is very strange too. Like it's why it's kind of comforting when you get around people that have experience and do the same thing that you do, because it's like, okay, I'm not crazy and I'm not alone. So that's awesome.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Looking at the chat on the side, Rachel's hit the word on the head. We've said it before, though, I think, with these. The TV programs don't help, and they don't, though. I don't think you'd better read it if you're on a little phone, because I do get why they do what they do, and it is entertainment, and they're now all of them pretty much put, the disclaimer about being entertainment. But, like, when everywhere you go is a demon or something like that, and it's just clearly not true, because it makes it awful, because there were plenty of, it seems like, there are plenty of spirits out there that just want to be heard or are confused or just don't know where they are or why they're there or why they're not there or why they've not disappeared, gone to heaven or whatever it is they believed in. And, because everybody seems to want the excitement and the adrenaline nowadays, it kind of doesn't help. And I'm not saying they're not genuine, because they could quite be, all of them want to be genuine. But the problem is, it just ruins it for everybody else who takes it as seriously and, and really does, and then realizes that, you watch someone on TV the night before and you think, wow, you've just made my job even harder by just basically blowing things out of proportion, because everybody will go, the moment you go, oh, I'm an investigator or a medium, a spiritualist, well, they'll go, oh, well, and I'm not going to mention the obvious because I don't like me. I just won't mention the TV shows by name. And they'll go, oh, well, so have you ever had? And you think, oh, God, here we go. We know what's coming. Yeah. And it's just clearly not like that. It's a little bit like everybody thinks doctors' lives are exciting because of all the programs, you know, on doctors and stuff. And it's mundane. A lot of it's probably just mundane, you know.
It's sitting getting cold.
It is, yeah.
We've just had Rachel Darby. She just asked us, do you like use equipment when you go out paranormaling? Because some people do and some people don't. And if you do, what's your favourite type of equipment that you use?
I definitely use me first. And I think everybody, whether they feel like they have a gift or a talent in any way, shape, or form, your gut will never steer you wrong. Your brain and your gut will never really steer you wrong. So that's the first thing that I use. And if I start getting, like we were talking about, my spidey senses and this, that, and the other are feeling in some area, then I will definitely pull out like the SLS. I will do the Estes method. My favorite is the voice recorder. I mean, that is my absolute favorite. Do rapid sessions and in real time, having somebody sitting and, you know, with the earphones on and having other people asking questions where they can't hear it. If you start getting intelligent responses back to back on that, and you can't hear, you know, that to me just proves right there without a doubt that you have an intelligent response. And then a video camera set up properly so that you can record what you and your team had gotten in that moment and take that back to share with everybody else. So those are my favorite pieces of equipment. I do like
on an investigation. I remember going out on an investigation, and like you say about tape recorder, it's like I could sense spirits. So I turned around and I could feel like where we went, it was just been old American like hospital sort of thing over here in the UK for a reason. And I went there and I would turn around and went, oh, there's an American here. And quite literally, I got the recording. I'm not sure where it's gone, but this happened a few years ago. It says, yep, and there's an Asian here. And it's like, okay, now that's intelligent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't get any more intelligent than that.
And then you validating that before it gets validated on that just makes people go, oh my God, they are real. These people are validated and that they are able to do these things. So that's why I do a walkthrough first, record the walkthrough. And then, I mean, you know, that's just kind of how we work. But, you know, it's like every team works differently. And depending on how every team works together to get their information, it's like I can't really stand these people go out there and consider themselves experts. You might be an expert on a location and you might be a very not so much an expert in working equipment and everything else, but the way that you get your information, like I can go to some locations and they might not want to interact with me. I might get nothing from a certain location, but say another team goes in there and they just like Bob better than they liked me, might get all this information that's validated. So it doesn't mean that anybody's doing it wrong, you know.
Not communicate, because spirits, you know, it's like, for example, if you go into a certain room and it's full of certain, you know, X amount of people, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to communicate with every single person in that room, because they don't even want to communicate with you. Whether that's it done. You know?
Like, for example, out here, we have a lot of old school plantations and things like that. And these men don't want to talk to women. You know, back then it was, you know, women were seen through. And we won't get any information, but the guys on our team, they'll be talking as the day is long about life and how much, excuse my language, bitches we are and how we shouldn't be in that room, you know? So that's even cool. Awesome. Sorry, you hate me. We'll step out now. Thank you. Like, you know, but if we had the guys in.
Yeah, it's true though. It just depends on the spirit that's there at the time. I mean, can you remember, Martin, I was used as a trigger object because of my beliefs. And we got some good results from that.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'm going to say, I wonder if sometimes you feel like, not from, I'm going to say, a lot of people always say if you don't believe in God or something, that it makes you an atheist. And I don't believe that at all. But it just you have a completely different belief, because I think I've said this before on one of these, that you go back a few hundred years and the stuff that we have now, I mean, let's face it, if you took a mobile phone back 200 years, they'd have locked you up as a heretic or whatever. So you look at it now, the science behind things that are going on now without people like us and all the different things that we want to try and put forward, they'll never be a great, you know, a proper belief or a proper science, but it is there. It's got to be. I've always said the same about the sort of like UFOs and aliens. people with the paranormal world, people's experiences. There are far too many people around the world that have seen and experienced stuff. Just go, it's a line, none of it exists. That's just rubbish.
Well, I think people like fail to recognize, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think they fail to recognize that the word paranormal is just an untapped science that we haven't figured out how to pick up and prove it yet. It's not necessarily ghosts or aliens, or maybe it is. We just haven't found a way or a device that actually confirms these things yet.
Yeah.
But people in the field are vastly, steadily working on it right now. And like we were talking about earlier, wavelengths, I mean, that's all EMF vibrations, and this, that, and the other, ley lines. I mean, these things that are starting to come to very vast truths within the science world right now that are proving some of the things that we already felt and knew here, that now they're starting to be able to pick up on actual devices and prove straight out.
Yeah.
So even not in the paranormal world, let's face it, the Egyptians, unless of course there were aliens or somebody involved with that, the Egyptians built all those pyramids and stuff, and half the time we can't even get people to fix a road properly without them cocking up. So there are some lost sciences and things that have fallen by the wayside, because like, looking at us, going right back, the Sumerians and stuff had great beliefs in sort of like that. It was almost like back then they were open to everything, the spirit world, the whole lot. And I mean, I wondered if because we've become so technologically advanced so quick that for most of us we just relied and we've lost that sense. But some of us luckily are still fighting for it, and I hope we keep doing it. So I wonder if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about this, but I'm just got to speak up here. This Slicer, whoever her name is, I don't really care who you are. If you got nothing better to say, please do not come on our show and start dissing our guests. We don't have time, we don't have any problems with that, and I won't deal with that. So you have been blocked, and thank you very much for coming up and giving your opinion, but us as Power Unity family, we will not deal with anything negative. Thank you very much and goodbye.
It's so little, I can't read any of the things they're saying right now.
I read it was the usual question about can you prove it, and it's that you can say that, can you prove it? Well, yeah, it's just that people don't want that proof, do they? What people want you to do is to be able to produce the ghost in front of you, or they want you to be able to the jokes we were making earlier on, the usual things, the lottery ticket, tell me the numbers, and it doesn't work like that. And just whether he's still there or not, he or she, the thing is, just because you can't do that doesn't mean to say it doesn't exist, and that's the problem with the world. If you can't, where's my car? There's my car key. I can produce my car key, so I must have a car. But that, you know what I mean? Just because I can't produce. The other night when Martin said, I don't want the bad back stuff, and then suddenly, boom, my back, I've never had backache for God knows how many years. And honestly, it felt like somebody stabbed me in the back. That was something, and I know that was something. And two, obviously, some other people like the chap, whoever it was,
but you could
just I can't prove it. I know it happened.
Right.
Yeah. And you can do that literally, like someone stabbed that person in the back.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, and that's like I've actually had the best piece of evidence that I've ever gotten in the years I've done this. I call it the Running Man, and it was a shadow figure, and I can't even believe that I noticed it and was able to slow it down just enough to see it. But I had already known that something was in one of the rooms that we were doing, and we had it lit up like Fort Knox. I'm talking like workshop lights in this examination room, and you could see it for a brief second run from one corner out of the doorway. And when you slowed it down, you can see it frame by frame. It looks like a man running, and you can see through it. It's a shadow. I know the only two people that were in that building were me and my significant other at that time, and I know what cameras are running. Nobody was moving. Everybody was sitting down. But with that being said, I could post that, and I have, and people are going to make the speculations that we fiddled with the camera and we did this, that, and the other. So until you experience something on your own, you can't make people believe that these things exist. No, but I do think the world needs to have more of an open mind towards a lot of different things. It's not my job to make you believe in what I tell you, but it is my job to think about what you tell me. So everybody should have that same mindset, in my opinion.
The more people that watch things like that and go, I've seen a few. I mean, I've discussed a lot with Martin. So I tend to sort of sit with my partner because she gets up earlier than me for work, and falling asleep. We tend to watch a lot of stuff on the YouTube and things, and most of it is just obviously. But I've actually found it quite good training to sort of go, well, I can see why that would be fake, or that's actually really convincing. And yeah, but the thing is, though, people watch it, and sometimes I might watch 100 videos and then watch one and go, wow, that's something, because I've forgotten the team, and there was 3 of them, and you could see where they were all the time, and something happened, and you knew it wasn't them because of where they were with the cameras. And at the point it happened, all 3 of them were at opposites, sort of pointing at the area where this thing happened. And it was like, wow, if that's faked and it was being done live, that is some trick. I'd love to know how it's done. And I don't believe it was a trick.
We're like, that's pretty impressive, guys. Yeah.
We're going to ask you, Candice, you know, when you was on about, like, you know, like the physicalities of what you do, have you ever, if you don't mind saying, what's the worst that you've come away with when doing this? You know, any physical, you know, like we was on about the bad back. Have you ever had anything that's...
I've had a couple of things that have latched onto me. One was in a specific place that's close down here, and it took months for me to get this off of me. And it would come and go. It's probably like we were talking about earlier, how not everything is demonic. I think I've worked in the field for a long time, and I think I may have encountered one demonic entity.
Yeah.
Spirit, especially like in life, there's positive people that are nice, and there's also very, very mean people that will cut your skin off of your body and eat your flesh. You know what I mean? So I think when people die, they tend to manifest into these things that they enjoy doing in death as much as they enjoy doing them in life. And you might come across those things. So, but this thing was something else. This was elemental, and I know for a fact it was. And for some reason, it just took probably because I taunted it. It was my fault. I'm not gonna lie. And it followed me home and was with me for a while. And on an emotional level, it would make me turn into this. Oh my God! Like not even recognizing my own thoughts and feelings and how I was acting towards other people. But fortunately, doing this as long as I have, it took me a little bit longer, but I did recognize that those weren't my feelings and my emotions, and then trying to figure out and talking to other people how to get rid of this. I mean, I even went the logical way about all this too, like went to the doctors, seeing if I needed to be put on meds, seeing like the logical way. And they were like, there's nothing wrong with you. We don't know what's going on. And it was physically starting to affect my health too. So nothing was wrong with me. Then at that point, you go metaphysical. And it worked. The metaphysical worked. So I don't care how it works.
With your actual show upon Discovery Plus, what did that all happen when you first started acknowledging like spirits within your house, or with what you're saying, like just
the part that they want? Okay, so this is the two things. The spiders were real. Not necessarily dropping down on our hands or anything. I did get bit by one that was in our bed, and I found it a couple days later, and that's when I started running around the house. The apartment people didn't believe that we had spiders. They finally got a bug guy out there to look a few days later, and I had captured a couple of them, killed a couple of them. He goes, "Oh yeah, those are brown recluse." And I started going through, every corner, and they were in every corner, but not like big and dropping down your head type stuff. You know,
we did that to cinematic views and all that.
Yeah. And I understood why they were doing that. Like, this is dramatic. And so we got that handled. The place had to be fogged twice. Now, when it came down to the spirits in the house, this is the other thing that they said, that they made it look like I thought it was Lauren's dad that was haunting us. I mean, my partner's dad. Sorry, wasn't going to say any names. And that wasn't the case. This was the apartment that we had was actually right across the street from this old plantation family cemetery. And it wasn't just our apartment that was being affected by the Civil War people and the family that actually used to live in the back of this place. And I knew what it was. They didn't like us being on their land and everything else, but it was a lot of them. It was a lot of them.
So was and this people in your area getting the interactions as well?
We had a friend of ours that lived a couple apartment buildings over, and she and her partner had experienced the same things there. And so we finally started going through, and it was just getting way too intense. Now, when I physically saw the black entity, and this was the other thing that they didn't put on there, I was laying in bed. I had gotten home from work, and I look up, and this thing is standing in the doorway. We left the kitchen light on for our daughter to be able to come from her room to our room in case she woke up in the middle of the night and needed to get to the bedroom. And you could see this thing standing there, and I'm like, I'm tired. It's not really there. Like 3 times I'm wiping my eyes, and I finally, like for the first time since I was a kid, put the blanket over my head because I can't get my wife to wake up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like seriously. And next morning, wake up and I'm like, okay, you were just tired. So for 2 nights, I saw this thing. And then I didn't find out that it had affected my kid because she came running into our room for like 2-3 nights in a row with night terror.
Asking how did it affect your child?
Yeah, I was waking her up at night. And we thought she was just having nightmares. And my ex, she had seen it standing on her side of the bed after I had seen it, and she couldn't wake me up the way that I couldn't wake her up. And it lasted 2 or 3 nights. And then my sister-in-law that was staying with us, it had messed with her 2 or 3 nights in a row. And then I'd saged the house and told everything to get out like a couple nights after that. We didn't have any issues with it again until I moved to another house. But I think that was something else that I picked up from somewhere else. So that was really the only thing that they kind of didn't really tell people. And again, this was over like a 2-year time span, but that the dark entity was within a 2-week time span with the spiders all at the same time. So that was
like from one like area to another, from going from one house to another. Did you feel like you had an attachment, or did you feel that okay, now I'm more open to the spiritual world?
Yeah, this was
to interact.
The one in the new house was something that I had picked up from actually doing a reading for a friend of mine, that I had picked up an attachment off of her. It was a different attachment that she had, and I removed it from her. It's not really realizing that I had done that, but then realized that it was hers after the fact.
Yeah. I get that because that's happened to me before. I went somewhere and I kept waking up between like 2 and like 5 in the morning. It was just continuously happening, day in, day out, to this end where I started waking up and I was hungry. I spoke to Wendy about it, and I spoke to some other psychics, and they said, I'm like, I just don't know. I always wake up between 2 and 5, and I'm always bloody hungry. Even I'll have something to eat before I go to bed. And like they explained to me that's because spirits are trying to communicate within the witching hour with you, because they know that you're able to communicate in that. Sorry. And it's like when we talk about your child, it's like, you know, not a lot of people are aware, and that kids do have that interaction with spirit, and a lot of them try to push it away. A lot of parents try to push it away and say, you know what, you're just making it up, you know what I mean? And I think more children should have that support there, because it can be a scary time.
I wished I'd had it.
When your child came to you and said to your mum, this is what's happening, how did you deal with that response? How did you deal with that? Because not only the spirit was interacting upon you and your missus, but now it's affecting the child.
Yeah, she was so young, and again, it was like for 3 nights that it was just I grabbed her and put her in the bed, which normally like we would put her back in her bed, but this was a whole different upset. You can tell when they're upset, or they're just a different upset. Like, it was different. So it was one of those things where I just grabbed her up, and she's still half asleep, but she was scared enough to get up and run down the hallway to the other room. So you just grab her up and put her in the bed, and then it really wasn't discussed. And it wasn't until I want to say weeks and weeks later that me, my sister-in-law, and my partner were sitting outside talking, and that I don't remember how it came up in conversation, but then we all validated that this thing had been running around our house for like 2 weeks straight, 2-3 weeks straight. Yeah, so, because nobody wanted to talk about it. Nobody's like, hey, guess what I saw last night? Because everybody's going to be like, they're going to think I'm crazy, So
that's it. Not a lot of people do want to communicate and talk about stuff like that.
And then with as young as she was, it's not like you go to her at that age and go, hey, you're validating your feelings, because I'm not going to make you think, especially if it's not bothering you anymore, that this was in our house if you're not even thinking about it anymore, Like if she'd have been maybe 10, 13, 12 years old and it was still bothering her, it's something I would sit down and have a conversation with her about, but not when we were 6, that's a little too young, If she wanted to talk about it, I'd sit down and be like, where is it at? What do we got going on? Okay, what's it look like? Stuff like that. But it never was really brought back up by her. So
yeah, I must admit, I've sat my children down and explain to them all. And I've always said I'd protect Martin's kids as well. So
Yeah, I think the older they get, like with my partner now, her kids are teenagers, and one of them actually goes with us. She's a junior investigator at OSPHPRC, so it's something that if she wants to get into, we give her the proper ways to do it so that she doesn't, mess around with anything she's not supposed to be messing around with, which I think is the best. That's why the classes for the junior investigators and stuff are very important.
Because it's like something that I've looked at doing over here myself. It's like one of my close friends, Gary Fields, he suggested doing something like this over here and trying to get this, the new generation of paranormal investigators, and getting kids that have got the ability to evolve on their ability.
Yeah. And teaching them how to properly get a team together and how to properly work equipment, how to properly be able to sage if you're going to use things like that, or, and these properly, whatever it is that you're going to do, how you're going to run your team, be able to do it properly so that you don't disrespect anybody amongst the living or the dead or anybody's property or anybody's home, if those are the things that you're going to get into. It's like Jack Cannon, he teaches a paranormal 101 class up in New York right now. He's got a couple of colleges that are actually certified that he's teaching it, and his book is great to read if you're just looking for the basics on beginner, paranormal.
If you've got the name of the book or anything, just post it and.
Yeah. I don't have my computer on me right now, but it's Jack Cannon. It's Paranormal 101 is the name of the book.
Okay, that'd be very interesting, and If you put it into the thingy at the end, we'll be able to we'll repost it. And I think if you message me, I'll repost it and get in every LSS groups and everything out there. So people, they love to read stuff like this. And if I got you, and that's part of the Para Unity. You know what I mean? That's what we stand for.
Yeah, and he's definitely a big part of Para Unity too. If you ever have any questions you want to ask him, he is down for anybody that wants to ask him questions. He'd love to talk about it.
Well, that'd be pretty cool, because it'd be cool to get you and him on the show if possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
We'll all have a good conversation together and talk about his books and stuff like that. Wendy, you all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Is that Wendy? Sorry.
I keep going further and further down. It's like I'm going like that.
No, it's like one of those chairs. That's like
I'm on the couch.
Wait for your laptop to move again on its own.
I totally agree that it's about the next generation coming up as well. That's why I want Emma out with us, because it gives her a broad aspect of not
Emma
just
is Wendy's daughter. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Emma, she's 18 now, but she's very sensitive. She's taken after me, and I've trained her as much as I can, but it's like anything, you've got to cut the apron ties at some point and let her fly.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I've been able to say, when she's come to me and said, Mum, there's something on my bed, something's moved my bed, I'm right in there going, get out, but because I never got that kind of response. I just had to hide my head under the pillow.
What was what was the most scariest investigation or experience that you've had? What, Candice?
Oh, God. Well, there was one night up at the hospital that, it just, everything that could possibly happen happened. It was a public investigation that we were doing. And we had it under control, because luckily we have some of the best volunteers that were running everything. But it was just everything on every single floor just started popping off, and it was starting to scare some of the people that were there. But that's what you go there. That's what you scared to see these things. Yes. But when it all happens at once and just kind of atomic bombs on you, everybody's like, "Whoa, wow!" Because you can spend 3 weeks in one location sometimes and maybe get an EVP and a shadow figure. When you get every single one of these on all 3 floors, all within a 4-hour period, that's sensory overload, you know. That can be a bit too much. So
I agree. It's like we've got Irene. She's the head of LSS Japan, so she does all the work for Lincoln Spirit Seekers over in Japan. And she said that she used to hide a lot in her old condo because it was a suicide condo. Where a lot of people commit suicide within their old place. And she used to be so scared that she actually moved out of her apartment to go to another. So, like you moving from like one house to another, did you feel that it was the spirit entity that you had to leave behind and move on and start a new chapter?
no. I mean, the only ones that I ever felt that way with, like the elemental that I had attached to me that was negatively affecting things. But I've had certain things around me that sometimes just come home with you to stay for a while because they want to change the scenery, and then they progress on to wherever it is that they're going next. And it's not a thing where I'm like, okay, you have to go because you're bothering me. A lot of it's been kids. I've had a lot of little kids that have come home with me, but for the most part, these things tend to stay at the places I've been at. I haven't really dealt with, but I also make it known before I go in and after I leave that, you know, this is your spot, you're here to stay, so don't follow me and my crew home. So I do think that has a lot to do with it, not having to really deal with that too much. But sometimes I have things come in out of nowhere anyways, because when you are born with this, what people call a gift, you're like a beacon of light for these things.
And they just come in.
Yeah. I mean,
there's no thing that can best describe like what happens, and it's like, well, how can we say it? The sixth sense. That's the best way of describing it.
Yeah,
no,
it really is. And you just get used to having these things around. The only part that kind of it sucks about that a little bit is if you get one that is emotionally like at unrest, with an emotional unrest, it can make you feel like you're super depressed and you don't know what's going on. So then having to analyze your own life and go, okay, hold on, everything's fine with me. So where is this coming from? You know, and that goes with psychology 101 too. Just basically reading your own emotions, figuring out what's going on, and trying to figure out if you actually need antidepressants or if there's something else going on in your life. So
it's funny you should say, because you like use the term like a beacon of light. It's a sort of a description a lot of people use, and it's funny you should say that, because like on about the demons, on about the bad things that happen, this, that, and the other and stuff. But what about the good things? What about have you ever, I'm not sure what the right word is, met's completely wrong, but I can't think of another word to fill it in. But, have you ever come across entities that just, probably because I get the feeling that you come across in paranormally as I can't way to describe this, is not very good description, as maybe, like a light, like there's Martin will know what I'm on about. There's a friend of ours, and I believe the daughter it's nothing bad, but the daughter is what's drawing them in, because she's got such a personality in that. There's have you ever drawn and come across something that's just made you laugh and cry, because it's not because it's bad, but because it was good, because you've met an entity that just filled you with warmth, right? Because everybody always asks about the bad stuff, and there's got to be.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, those are the ones that I don't mind, and they're so soft-spoken when they even come in and are around. For the most part, they never come in and like hit you on your head, and then one day you just realize they're there, and then you start looking back and go, "Oh, you've been here for a while. Where did you come from?" Type situation, And they've been helpful around certain things, like even let me know a light bulb's going to go out soon, or I don't know, something that I need to fix or need to, worry about. Or the cat is going to have babies tomorrow, and then the cat pops out babies the next day, something like that, like. Just little things, and those I appreciate. Those that even when you're having a bad day.
Because everybody, like I say, everybody always wants to know about the demons and the ones that scare you senseless and throw things around the room and all that. But that's not all. It's all is, especially because obviously we're mostly on about intelligent hauntings. But I think I've talked to Martin about this before, whereby I just believe, like a lot of us sound like we do, where it's that tuning, and everybody's different every day, and 1,000 people can walk down a corridor, and it doesn't have to be somewhere old. Nobody will hear or see a thing, but just somebody will just be in that chip wavelength, like a radio, and they'll just see somebody or something, and they'll think, wow, what on earth? And they'll never see it again. And it's just that tuning, good or bad. And sometimes, everybody just, sometimes it's one of them things, you know.
It's like
when I think the thing about it is okay, like if you go on Yelp and say a restaurant, somebody can go into that restaurant and have a million times great experience, but the one time they have a bad experience is the only time they're going to talk about ever being in that restaurant. And I think it goes the same with the paranormal. They have a bad experience or something that scared them, even if it was something that was not trying to be scary to them, but they've never seen that before. That scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to talk about that, and it's going to be negative to them. And you know, it's up to us that do this to try to let people know that not everything is out to get you, and there's probably maybe none of it's really
again, TV doesn't help that. Can I just say, Alison? Yeah, TV doesn't help that because it always wants to promote sort of like the bad stuff, and it's not.
We throw ourselves into so many situations that we are on a higher probability of catching things and seeing things than just the everyday Joe is. So it's like, yes, we have had these experiences, but this doesn't happen every day to us all the time. And I think people need to understand that, you know.
Well, that's it. It's like with abilities, with psychic abilities. I'll say it as it is. It's like sometimes there isn't an on-off switch, really. Not really. I don't think there is. Not with me doing it anyway. And it's like sometimes you just see something and just go, all right, mate. And just, you know, that's it. So I'm done with them because it's like they just wanting that acknowledgement to see that you're there, that you know that they're there, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Saying hi.
Yeah. Nice. You know what I mean? Or, for example, we went out on an investigation the other night, and I'm not kidding you. There was a lot of spirits that wanted to communicate, and you know, they just wanted to come, and it's like, you know what? Wait, I know you're there. I can see you're there. Just let me communicate with who wants to communicate right now. You know what I mean? And then we'll come back to you. I've never had that sort of situation when you go out on investigations with ICD.
Yeah, there's been a few times that we've done that either something has gotten something stirred up even in the same spots that we do over and over again. And what it is if I go in, it's like static. It's too much, and you can't pick out one from the other. It's like they're all yelling at the same time because everybody, like you said, is like, hey, me. Hey, I want to talk right now. Hey. And that's when you got to go, whoa, take a second. Everybody calm down.
I just let my spirit guides deal with that.
I was going to say that, in which case, have you ever had, this is the daftest question, but I've got to ask it. Have you ever had literally then where whether, I was going to ask you if you can sort of switch off and put it away and go, right, I am going to the supermarket to get me stuff for tea, and I will not, because I did wonder, have you ever been sort of literally in a supermarket or anywhere and suddenly you thought, oh wow, and you sort of think this is not the time and the place, and you've had to sort of you sort of let it happen, or you sort of think to yourself, and you've had to sort of quietly say, you need to go away, this is not
I find it that this is where I do become very rude, and I feel like I'm being rude to the spirit because it's like, this at the time, I'm not communicating.
Yeah,
I'm carrying on. I don't know about you, Candice or Wendy.
I've gotten to the point now where it's one of those things where I just kind of shut it down when it's not the time or the place, period. And if it is back there, it's kind of like my own conscience talking to me, and I'm like, nah, I'm not entertaining that. The hardest part is when I start picking up on other people's thoughts and them being bothered by something when I'm out in public. That one's rough. And that's one of those where you kind of want to go say something, but then again, you know, you either can't or it's not the time or place type situation. So I tend up taking those feelings home by not helping that person. But then again, I have to remind myself, they didn't ask you for your help. Like, leave it alone, you know? So but again, I mean, I've just gotten so used to it being around all the time where it's gotten easier for me to compartmentalize it on a daily basis.
Just to interject a moment, Candice, because I'm not sure you can see that because you're only on a small screen, see the chat. I'm not going to say what, but Martin, if you read Irene's comment, given the conversation we had about individuals, if you think about it, this is going to sound very cryptic, but I need to say it now. That, if you read Irene's last comment, is absolutely spot on, given the conversation.
I've got it on the screen right now.
Yeah, if you just, we can't say a lot because Martin will know it's to do with something that we can't talk about, but that is that comment is spot on.
Yeah.
And we've had a conversation about that sort of that thing, you know, whereby, you know, we're, how can I say, mental health, and some things have been a little bit less unassuming. But I just wanted to point that out to Martin in case he'd missed it.
I know, I saw it. That's why I put it on the screen.
That's all right, no problem.
Am I missing something?
Well,
we can't really talk about it because
when we're not on a live, I can explain, but without name.
We're not on live, we'll be able to communicate a bit more.
Someone that had something, or someone in general that I legitimately felt like they were in any kind of dire straits, I would definitely at least try to pull them aside and just make friendly banter and conversation with them.
Like,
just to put a smile on their face before I leave their presence that day, if that makes sense. Is the best way I would try to interact with them.
Yeah. It's like, what's your opinion with like schizophrenia? And then like they hear all these different voices, and then obviously you know, some people, they struggle to get rid of those voices, which then it becomes an illness. But then sometimes it be somebody that's really attached to his spirit world, that they struggle to get rid of his voices, which then, you know what I mean, they're continuously communicating. They're basically a continuous antenna for the communications to come forth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think mental health's a real thing. I think that people should properly go to doctors and seek out any psychological help that they need, and listen properly to doctors that have PhDs on whatever level it is that you're looking at. I do think that if you are spiritual and do believe in the metaphysical and the spiritual realm of things, that could help you too. I don't think that going overboard on any one scenario is the best thing in the world. I think that you need to do what's best for you and the people around you, and definitely pay attention to your gut and the doctor's opinions, and figure out what is going to be the best planned treatment for you to go through whatever it is that you are dealing with at that moment. I'm not qualified to tell anybody that they should or should not see a doctor for any reason, or do not take meds for any reason. I would never.
Yeah,
none of us would, but we have had the conversation whereby you do wonder, you know, in the past, whereby, and this works both ways, whereby classic cases of possession and stuff weren't possession, and they were under misdiagnosed mental health issues and things like that. Because thankfully, or hopefully, we live in a world that understands all that kind of stuff better. But conversely, of course, because I love to play devil's advocate, I do sometimes wonder if that works the other way around as well, because we've been here for an hour or so talking about things, you know, such things happening and things, but we still have to admit that, you know, if you take into the realm of the demons and all that kind of stuff, no, that's a terrible word, you know, that the chances are that some people who just can't mentally cope could be easily, which is quite sad, but
you've seen cases out there where people believe so adamantly in this one thing that is what's wrong, that they can literally convince themselves that that's what's wrong. Again, I'm not saying that this is not what's going on with other people. I'm not speaking about any one person's situation. I think that if you
our streams reaching out to India, so thank you, we appreciate it.
Hi there.
I think that if you've exhausted all your resources and you are still going to your doctors and nothing is working, and you want to seek out a priest or holistic healing, you know, while you're doing the same thing, and see if that actually works for you too. Who knows? You know, try everything. If you're miserable, do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I have read of people
meditation
who use that kind of, you know, holistic, and also just people's belief. Because even though it's a bit of a stretch beyond what we're on about, I have read of cases that found out actually were true, whereby people have had cancers that were supposed to kill them, and they just literally, I suppose, found religion. I'm not going to say which one or anything, and they're still alive. And it makes you wonder, because the pragmatic, I think that's the right word, would say, oh, they just got better because it worked that way, even though they were told they were terminal, this, that, and the other. But it does make you wonder about the whole thing, and about the belief in how you can control, you know, because we're obviously talking about how we can control, because obviously I've definitely got something I know going on with myself, but you guys have obviously got something that you understand, or maybe don't understand, and it works, that a lot of people either do or don't have. And it's, you know, it makes you wonder how much you can control what goes on in your life as illness, as well as, can you? It's a bit of an in-depth sort of question, but just given just the conversation, I thought it'd be, it's a tricky one, and it's not one you're going to go into. I'd go into depth, but you do sometimes yourself, because if you can kill yourself with the headaches and that,
It's like when we talk about illness and stuff. It's like animals; they always sense it, and that's like that's like an ability that they've got. So we've like,
I've seen that with the dogs, with a dog or something that kept on TV, and I can't remember. And I thought to myself,
kept laying on the lady. The lady went and got herself checked up, and
that's it. Yeah. So it does, and the thing is, whilst it doesn't sound like it's anything to do with what we're on about, but it is, because it's those extra sensory abilities that people have obviously got, and some people have got it in spades, and other people have got it but don't want to know about it, and this, that, and the other and stuff. And obviously, Candice, you've obviously recognised yours as like the same as Wendy and Martin, and sort of, it's nice to see you using it for good as well as the whole using it for, and because obviously until Martin mentioned you, I'd got to admit, never heard of you. So you can tell you're not looking for profit, you're not looking for fame. But for what I've read and listened to, you just want to help people because you understand what it was like to be in a situation that nobody else would understand.
The thing with that, Bob, about the ego and the fame, it all goes to one. So if you've got someone with a massive ego that is constantly like, look at me, they're the ones that are in it for the totally wrong reason.
Yeah. That's it.
There's no. It's very hard when they're saying, "Oh, look at me! I'm this big psychic medium, for instance, and I can do this and I can do that." Now, I do a lot of stuff, and Martin, that I've done a few charity dues for you, and I won't shout that out. I don't go out and tout for clients. They come to me now. And
that's the thing.
I don't need to say I can do this and I can do that, because the right people will find me. Sorry, I've got to put my mic off for a minute. My daughter's just come in.
No, you're right. There's a lot of people that have ego in it, and if that's that's their prerogative, that's how they want to do things. Good for them. I can't tell you that if I didn't have a production team come offer me and my team some money to go investigate some cool place, even over there where y'all are at, that I would definitely say yes, and I would have fun doing it too. I like to cut up
places I'd love to go to. I know I could never do it and that, but if with the right thing, if somebody sort of saw one of these and goes, wow, we've got sort of like, I hate to use this term, and I'm sorry, but wow, he's like a virgin at this. He'd be brilliant, because we'd follow him around like some, and we'd get that sort of dead ground level sort of. And but I got to admit, I wouldn't do the fake. I think I'd walk away if they said, oh, even though you can't hear or see, can we just pretend? No, we can't, because that is definitely never happening. It's not.
It's like that's always been about.
I'm a horrible liar, so you would be able to tell if I was if I was faking any kind of evidence. There's no way I'd be able to. I couldn't sell it. There's no way I'd be able to sell it. There's no way.
I can do it.
About truth and honesty in everything we do. It's and it's like I've if I was offered that, would I take it? Most probably. But would I do the fake stuff like what Bob just said? No, I won't, because. It's okay doing it to get the viewers, but there should be, it's like, I'm not going to lie, LS is going to I'll say, we're going into our own productions very soon.
Oh, cool.
But it's the first time I've said it live or anywhere. But we're going to be going into our own productions, which we will be on Roku, we will be on Amazon and other stuff that's going to be available. But it's like when we go paranormal, we're going to be going out and investigating with teams out there that's, and doing our investigation, promoting Power Unity, showing that people can work together. But I will not work with somebody if I'm traveling, say 50, 100 miles, whatever it is, to go with them. And then they're going to go, right, we're live. and I've just thrown a stone just to show that there's a spirit. No, I'm not having that because, like, we want the real stuff. I've been out on investigations, been live streaming, and I've been there for an hour, and I've literally turned around and went, you know what? I'm not going to lie. No active.
We didn't.
Yeah. We had that the other night when I got the other night when I used the SLS, and it seemed to be, to start with, I watched over it, and to start with, it didn't seem to be to do with the spotlight, but then it seemed to be to do with the spotlight. But it was very inconclusive because when I moved away, but like you were saying, Martin, was it because it was drawn towards the light or anything? But it's very odd because it didn't seem to pick up on anything when I tried to use, as best we could, sort of like to test it out in other little areas where we were. And that's always the case. It's always, sometimes it's difficult to sort of prove, especially when you're on the fly. It kind of, if you, when you do when you do investigations, whatever, Candice, have you ever, like when you do if you do a recording, obviously, and you've come across EVPs, have you ever come across kind of EVPs that have shocked you as if they're not anything to do with what you thought was going on around you? As if,
and those have been more situations where something has come through that is wanting to talk to a specific person that's there. Or there's also been a couple of times where we have found out that something is there that we didn't know about, that historically we were able to go look up and find out about because they told us about it, which are the coolest ones. That's my favorite.
I was going to say to you, did you ever, because have you ever had whereby somebody's come through, and even though you're in a location that's nothing to do with them, they've had a family member. I have read of this, and a family member's appeared, and if they're like, "Wow!" And which case, if you're the only one that hears that, what would you do? Would you sort of say, "I'm going to be acting," and say, "Jonathan, I've got somebody here actually who wants to talk to you," or as a.
In those situations, those people are already there they're already opened up for the paranormal to come into them. So I don't mind telling people when their family members come through, if they're like at a public investigation that we're doing at one of our events or anything like that, that doesn't bother me. Or if a friend of mine is with me, or they brought a friend that we're investigating a home, and for some reason their family, because we're trying to talk to spirit, that they were like, "Hey, I've been trying to talk to her for a week, and right now y'all are really here. Let's do this."
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I don't mind telling them then.
I know that feeling. It's really good. We was talking about children. We're talking about children and stuff earlier, and this is something new. I just like to just put forth because I know that every one of us will stand strong about this. I've got somebody called Damon Hunter that's on watching us right now.
Oh yeah,
Damon. And basically what it is that we're supporting these individuals and what they do. They safeguard like innocent children on the internet. So it's like something that we're working with. It's like we all should always feel safe. So I'm sorry about this for interrupting you. I just wanted to put it across with the viewers that LSS are supporting SIKO with like protecting children, and hopefully this might also help children to be able to communicate and be able to if something's happened to them
in a safe space.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get back to this. Sorry about that.
No, it's super important. It's nice to say. It's a nice one, Martin. And evening, Damien, in case you didn't catch that, because I see he's put hello again. So, hey there.
As we were saying about like when you go to a haunted place and then like you find about the history after you've been there. I've had that happen to me before. I remember going out on an investigation. It was 3 years back, and I went through these It's why I started like smiling. It's like, yeah, I got this. I know where you're coming from, Candice. And it's like went out on this investigation to this location. I was walking through there, and I went, and it's like, so what you pick? It was like, what you picking up? I went, yeah, there used to be a camp here, and there used to be prisoners here. And he's like, no, there wasn't. And I'm like, yes, there was. And he's like, well, I've done research on this. I'm like, you best go back and do it again.
Yeah.
You best go back and do it again. Do that research again, please.
Or my other favorite is when there's something that they found out about their place that they still haven't told anybody about for whatever reason, because it had some kind of negativity on it would have on their location, or they just found out and they haven't told anybody about. And then I'm like, oh, da 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 da. And I mean, the look on the face when they turn around is like, how would you ask questions like this? Like, why would you ask questions?
But it's when you get that sort of thing, and you've got this like investigation that you've gone ahead and done, and you're like, yep, go and check on it again. So we did this whole investigation, went to the end, and went, right, now we're sat down here. I want you to look on the internet and look properly and find what I've just told you. And he's like, oh, okay. You know, OSHIT. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you're right, I'm wrong. It's like, yeah, I know. Like, and you can see when we're on the live, it's like, I'm sitting around and going, yeah, there was a camp. I can tell you who used to be on Prisoners here. You know, it's the Polish, unfortunately, you know. And then look back at it, it's like, yeah.
We have to verify ourselves even within our own brain waves as much as the evidence or the stuff that we use, you know, SLS and stuff to verify what we're feeling in certain places too. So, you know, that we like being verified by behind the stuff that we do, because otherwise, God, we are crazy. Myself,
yes. You know what I mean? I mentioned it before, didn't I? Some of those things, though, that you see sometimes, you've got to be very careful, such as the spirit boxes. And then when you find out on certain things that you watch, the spirit boxes, and you know, they go to a supposed haunted castle, and what you don't, you think, wow, they've got some great evidence. It's what you don't find out until afterwards is that when they load up the word banks, it's all to do with things like castles and stuff. So they kind of edge their own, you know, they edge their bets, which is just cheating. And SLSs is the same. Some of the, I don't know if it's now, but some of the SLSs would just make stick figures if they picked up on an anomaly. So which is useless because of course everybody's watching, going, "Oh, it's a person." That's because it was made to look that way.
Yeah.
But they're not all like it now, because I know the one that I've used doesn't. It will give you, if it picks up an anomaly, it will give you a generalized shape that sometimes does become a stick figure. So
that's like the REM pod, the cat balls, and or any kind of device that can be moved that will light up. I mean, I do like those. The bears, the bears, I like those. Because you can't manipulate that, you know. And especially with the headphones and the micro, that is using two different people. You can't fake that intelligent type of response if they start answering you intelligently like that. I mean, you can't. I can't.
A couple of years ago, I had a lady use some equipment in a house around Christmas time because she believed her mum would visit every Christmas. And I said to her, when you use this piece of equipment, you need another piece of equipment to record what you're listening to, because if you use the same piece of equipment, people are just going to say, well, it's fake because it's on the same thing. I said, so you need whatever you're using, the spirit box type thing, and then obviously something to record with. And she got some amazing evidence, which I couldn't believe. It was brilliant. It was so good. And I know, because of the way the situation was set up, I know very well it wasn't. Also, this person's not very IT literate as well, so I can't imagine it was fake. I'll mention no names, but
we were talking about your ICT, your actual paranormal team, and you know, how many people have you got on your team, and like, what's, you know, did you build that after you was like later on, like after you like moved and you've like later on in life, did you build that team because of the experience that you've had with the spirit world, or did you always have that sort of thing going?
No, I never had that thing going. I actually didn't even get into, like, I guess, kind of professionally starting to investigate the paranormal until after me and my ex's situation, the dark entity thing. And then, like I said, it was one of those things, throw me in a spot, let me see to see if I really have this, if this is real. It was. So then there was a team that we started, which was R&R Paranormal. Back years ago. They're still running. They do events and still work with them sometimes with a bunch of other different people. But the ICU, Jack, after I had left the team, because I was working out of town, he was like, I really want you to put together a team with me, you, and Carly, and whoever else you want to be on it. And I was like, I don't know if I want to get back in the paranormal right now, but I'll think about it. So I did, and I came up with the Investigators Collective of the Unseen Paranormal. I had to do something
nice one.
ICUP. I mean, I had to make my little.
That was brilliant. So, that was so good when I saw that.
You won't forget it once you figure, you know. But I work with several other different teams amongst my team, and it's basically more of a catalyst, a satellite to get other people in touch with. Like if I have people that contact me and I don't necessarily can't do it myself, or with the few people I have on my team, I do know other teams that I work with that are more capable of doing whatever it is that they're dealing with, like spiritual stuff, Catholic things, Jewish, whatever, the gins, that are more expertise with that I'll work with to go help with whatever situation is going on. So it's more of a PTA tree meetings mom thing. I don't know, to be able to, I've got somebody perfect that can help you work on that, and we'll get right with you,
I noticed in the chat, Irene's asked, do you investigate a home and cleanse it and remove the spirits in the residence?
Yeah, we have. We usually, if people call us, I'll get the right people together. I'll do a case report first before I do anything, especially investigating or trying to help somebody in their personal home. We put together a questionnaire, casework, that I send over that people fill out. I ask them to be completely honest. It's like HIPAA, that this information does not go past, us, our personal team. I don't post anything about the things that we do unless they absolutely want us to, or they want to post it themselves. And then we go in with the proper equipment, the proper people, and it usually takes a couple of rounds. You go in first, you don't necessarily investigate the first night. You go in, sit down with the family, ask questions, kind of feel it out, and then go back with your team and discuss what all you felt and how we think we could properly approach the situation. So sometimes it takes a week or two, and sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes it only takes 1 or 2 runs to help them with some stuff.
Have you ever had anybody try to trip you up? You just made me think.
Yeah, all the time. The time. It's usually when, like, if it's a couple, it's usually the husband, that definitely is not a believer, but the wife is Francis, so he's like entertaining the notion. But I've had people put things in random places that they know has an attachment or something to it, and that had nothing to do with the house that they brought from somewhere else. And I did it at one of the things that we did, and I was like, it doesn't belong here. It was a Civil War bullet is what it was.
Yeah.
And he had Civil War stuff all within the house. He was a collector. But I walked into his library and I was like, there's something in here. And I was like, it's in this case right here. I said, it's something right here on this row. I said, it doesn't belong here, but it's all a bunch of bullets. And he went, oh my gosh. He goes, I put this in here. It's from a buddy of mine or somewhere else that I was just going to see if you would pick up on it. And I was like, I didn't really pick up on the fact that it was that specifically. I picked up on it coming from him, from his own brain. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I think you're trying to trip me up, and it's coming from you, not from this item, because there was nothing really specific about the item. So it was pretty cool.
I was going to say, you remind me of the bit from the film Poltergeist when Mr. I can't remember his name, Mr. Freeling, he can't remember if he thinks something or whispers something and he tells his missus she's fake, Tangine's fake, and then after everything she walks up to him and she sort of says, oh, by the way, that's what you said, and no, it's not true. And it's like, whoa. It's sort of that moment. Yeah.
I love it when you get that feeling, but when you're able to do that, just like turning when you go and do a reading or you go and do some investigation and then they end up like with a jaw dropped and they're like, okay, you just walk off from them and you go, don't test me.
No, I'm never too cocky about it. I just go, so are we going to move on to what really is going on? Like, I've had a full team actually try to make me do things, and I'll finally look at them when there's really nothing going on, and just full like a group of people just being snarky, and I've read it before I even walked into the situation, and I'll walk away. I'm like, I'm done. Like, seriously, I'm not here for a dog and pony show. Like, no, it was very nice to meet y'all. I'm out, like, gonna go. So
that's it. That's what I mean. It's like, don't test me, sort of things. Like, I'm done here. You know what I mean? Yeah. I proved myself. I need to do that. I'm here to help, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're going to say if you're not because if you're not making any money out of it, there's just no point in faking it. I mean, earlier on when you was back on about the dark entity thing, I was going to ask you: has anybody approached you since then to do? Other than the podcasts and like us that that wanted to talk to you, has anybody sort of more serious from some TV or anything ever, or was anybody? Because often, like when they make these films, like the Annabelle and all those, they actually do go to people and talk to them to get a feel of it. You ever been asked anything like that? To somebody sort of pick your brain because they're either wanting to work on something.
Take your ideas, sort of thing.
Yeah, you know what I mean, or your experiences, even though they obviously won't be able to use the names. That makes sense.
Oh, for another story, yeah. I've had actually heard that they were producers try to contact me, and maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But you know, I've been like, I'm more than happy to sit down and talk about. Had somebody contact me to do another show, but it had something to do with finding objects or something like that. But nothing really came to fruition about it, and I didn't really push for it. But it's mostly just in podcasts. People want to sit down and talk about the show and talk about the things that I've done, I've done since then.
Yeah, because I'm going to say, like, it was more because I like I said before, I didn't watch it, but now I've talked to you, I'm going to watch it. But it was, I just listening to you on the podcasts and stuff and reading, it was more interesting because it was more interesting to hear your actual take on it, you know, without all of the pomp and circumstance is the wrong word, but it's best I can think of. You know, actually listen to you, and you've got an amazing. I've got to admit right now, you've got an amazing character. I would literally just sort of, you know, you've got a trust. There's a trust about you, a certain. Because I'm not saying you're lying. Don't get me wrong, but there's an amazing. You come across amazing, the great character and stuff, and I bet you put a lot of people at ease the moment you walk into a room. You know, or into a place where they're having problems. I bet.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. But
you can feel. I can feel it. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right. He's amazing. And that's only what, an hour and a half sat talking to you, and you can. I don't know. And I'd like to think I'm a pretty good judge of character. I've only been married and divorced once. I'm doing well, so I'm not too bad.
I've been married once.
About to get married again, but once I never thought I'd do it again, but that's how it goes.
Hey, you know, sometimes it takes a couple of rounds to get it right. You know what I mean?
yeah, like boxing.
Exactly. Hey, if my phone dies on y'all though, because I'm getting down in the red, I just want to let y'all know I'm not cutting out on y'all. My phone's about to kill out on me.
Well, I'm bringing it to an end now anyway. I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining us tonight. You know, it's been absolutely great meeting you. Hopefully I can have you on another time. You know, it's been great just like getting to know about you, get to know you as a person.
Good luck with everything you do. It's amazing. I think it's amazing. I think you're amazing. Like I say, it's brilliant.
Y'all too. I can't wait to be a part of the stuff that y'all are getting up and running around and helping y'all promote the Para Unity. I'm in, and yeah, I'll talk to Jack about everything, and I'll come on anytime y'all want. So y'all
well, thanks for
Sorry,
you.
I literally had the times wrong. I was thinking 8:30 my time, and I was like, that wouldn't make sense. That's like 3:30 their time in the morning or something like that.
Thanks for joining the family, and I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Y'all have a great night.
You too, man. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.